Who's Carrie Kimura?
She works at the library.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Yes. Just a second. What a strange batch of weather we've had.
Isn't it? Yeah.
We were at the hall yesterday, and it was southerly, southwest in the morning, we got that
Yeah.
drop southwest. And then rain cloud went overhead when the tide turned, and I said, look at the other side of that. And just like that, just like a light switch, turned easterly, right in the other
Wow.
direction, and blew hard for
Ah,
a while.
yes.
Yeah.
Huh.
Nasty, weird, strange weather.
Huh. Where were you fishing?
Where?
Yeah.
Just north of the rock, Mount
Okay, so you're out there.
Yep.
one.
Yep. Yeah. All right, I've got 5 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order today, Monday, September 19th, 2022. Roll call, we have Selectman Howdy Goodwin, Mackenzie Jewett, Kevin Buck, myself, Jamie Thurlow, Town Clerk Katie Danduran, and Town Manager Jesse Dunbar. And Eric has contacted me and said to keep it, or we've made the decision for him not to come tonight. He still has a sore throat and not feeling so good, so I said, I think that's a good spot for him.
I'd make a motion to excuse Eric Eaton.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to excuse Eric from tonight's meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, adoption of agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to change? Okay. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes from Tuesday, September 6th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, September 6th, 2022.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from Tuesday, September 6th, 2022. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, approval of warrants. We still have another warrant from FY22. I keep saying one more every time. Warrant 140 for $55.63. And then from FY23, we have warrant 24, $9,797.21. Warrant 25 for $634.78. 26, $47,998.13. 27 for $11,677.78. And 28 for $140,131.70.
I make a motion to approve warrant 140 from fiscal year 22 and warrants 24 through 28 fiscal year 23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve warrants 140 from fiscal year 22 and warrants 24 through 28 for fiscal year 23. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, next we have an executive session entitled Employment Matters.
And,
Go for it.
okay. Make a motion to find the public discussion of these personnel matters could be reasonably expected to cause damage to the employee's reputation and or violate the employee's privacy rights, and therefore to go into executive session to discuss the employment, appointment, assignment, duties, promotion, demotion, compensation, evaluation, disciplining, resignation, and or dismissal of an individual or a group of public officials, appointees, or employees as permitted by 1 MRSA 405.6.a.
Second.
Good job, Kevin. It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session entitled Employment Matters as read by Kevin. Would we also like to include, do you want on that motion to include anybody like Jesse and the Sheriff's Department?
Okay, I wasn't quite sure what it was about, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And include in my motion the sheriff's department and the town manager.
And that was seconded, you're good with
Yeah.
that, Mackenzie? Okay. All those in favor? And for everybody that's waiting, we'll be, as soon as we're out, we'll have Jesse wave to you or something if you're in the car.
You have the option of going up so we can sit here.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll
I
just,
guess that's a no.
we'll just send you up, Mark.
Great working relationship with town of Tremont and the selectmen. Call me, Jamie called me.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Call me, Kevin. They did, call me directly in my office.
And we have one member of the Tremont School, Fire Department, Library staff seat with term expiring June 30th, 2023, and we have two open at-large resident seats, term expiring June 30th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kathy Pratt to the school staff seat on the 175th committee expiring June 30th, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Kathy Pratt to the school staff seat on the 175th committee expiring June 30th, 2023. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, next we have financial reports. Jesse, that is you.
So under revenues, well, these reports are for August 31st, which is 17% of the way through the fiscal year. In August, we collected $2,329,666 in property taxes. Total collections for the year are at 50.96% of the budgeted amount, which is ahead of pace for FY22 and continues to outpace all other recent years. We also collected $45,326 in motor vehicle excise tax, resulting in total collections of 21.17% of what was budgeted. Still ahead of pace from this point last year, as well as all of the recent years. Some notable revenues received in August include $56,994 in homestead reimbursement from the state, $1,180 in registration agent fees, $910 in plumbing fees, $783 in building permits, $1,134 in MRC rebates, and $856 in checking interest. Some other notable revenues included are in the wharf fund. We received $48,025 in use permits and $1,000 in wharf garage rent. Under expenses, the administration cost center is currently at 15% of the budgeted amount for FY23. In August, some notable expenses include $439 in office supplies, $690 in audit expenses, $5,057 in attorney's fees, and $1,304 in abatements. In the public works cost center, we're currently running at 8.5% of the budget amount, and expenses in August were all routine and minor. On the general ledger, you'll see we received $11,445 in revenue sharing from the state in August, bringing our total to $27,760, which is 22% of what was budgeted for the year. Otherwise, there's no significant changes to the general reserve accounts in August.
Okay, thank you, Jesse.
Make a motion to accept the July 2022 through August 2022 financial reports.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the July 2022 through August 2022 financial reports. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, now we have regular business. The first thing we have is law enforcement. And I think we wanted to, we've had some residents with concerns with kind of the uptick in crime that we've had around here lately, and wanted to give people a chance to speak if they had something that they were concerned with, and then we would take it from there. The sheriff is here to answer some questions too, if anybody would like to speak with them. Yes, ma'am.
I'm new, so I don't know what the protocol is. Do I just speak, I guess?
Yep, yeah, if you don't mind, if you just state your name and then, yep.
Okay, Sarah White. I'm a new full-time resident. I've been a summer visitor for several years. Used to be a ranger at Acadia. That's why I love this place. This spring, someone took out the fence in my front yard while I was not here. And, I'm a little nervous. So I asked anyone around. When I found out about it, my son came to check on my property and was aghast at what had happened. We didn't know what to do. We tried to ask people in the neighborhood, and the answer was nobody knows. And I said, did anyone file a report with the sheriff? Was anyone here? And they said nobody knows, and there was no report filed. That's all I had to say. I was just, but it took me aback that happened and no one knew anything, and I had no recourse, basically. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so,
Just for my own information, I'm Scott Kane, I'm the sheriff, nice to meet you. Do you believe that it was an automobile accident, or do you think it was malicious mischief that somebody purposely do that? Do you have any indication which that was?
The neighbor across the road, because they took out his inbox as well as mine, took pictures the next morning, and it looked like someone had just gone off the road. It looked like a slippery road.
Yeah.
All I can think of, it must have been someone under the influence, because it wasn't on a corner.
So, more than likely, somebody had an accident there, damaged your property, and just left the scene.
That seems to be the evidence that I saw.
But, and I would say to you that if anytime you see any of those kind of things with property, please call us. That's one of the things that we always struggle with. People will see something and they may tell their neighbor, and they may tell their aunt or their uncle or their friend or something, but they don't tell us, someone who we have the ability to investigate those kind of things and hopefully find out who does those kind of things, so.
And I was hoping a neighbor across the road had done that, because they took out his mailbox, but they didn't do that.
We've really come to a big part, I think societally, that people don't want to be involved in other people's business. And I guess I get it, because, you know, it's inconvenient sometimes if it goes to a trial, you have to testify and those kind of things. But if it was me, I'd like to think that my neighbor would call and say, gee, I just saw this blue GMC pickup hit your property, hit your fence or whatever. So, encourage your neighbors to do those kind of things, and I would say that to anybody.
yes, Mark.
How widespread is this issue? I heard of a few incidents, but then standing outside talking to other people, it seems like there's more stuff going on than I'm aware of. Maybe Scott, or maybe somebody else that knows something. What all's happening?
It's countywide, we've had some thefts. We just arrested 3 people that were involved in multiple thefts, and we recovered over $250,000 worth of stolen property. So there has been a fair amount of that, and these things too also they seem to go in cycles. There'll be a group or a person or two, and they will be carrying off everything they possibly can, until somebody sees them or helps us, and we solve those and arrest those people. But that has, it's been quiet for the last, well, I guess since we really started investigating this group of people and arrested them, but for a period of time, there was a lot of utility trailers, construction tools, those types of things. And we still have, gosh, Corey, how much stuff have we have that we know is stolen, that we've seized this
Right.
as a result of search warrants, and we don't have victims. Nobody has come forward, nobody's reported them, or they can't identify this stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, we have an entire trailer full.
So do you have an idea that some of that stuff, stolen merchandise came from Tremont?
We don't at this point.
Okay.
But around the county, the group that we arrested, the 3 people we arrested were involved in thefts in Hancock County, Penobscot County, and Waldo County.
Yeah.
So they were equal
Familiar
to
with
the
that,
thefts, yeah.
So are there suspects in the Tremont
We
burglaries and
can't
thefts?
talk about any active investigations. We can't share those kind of things.
I understand.
But I will tell you that they are actively being investigated by the 2 deputies that were originally assigned them, and one of our detectives is working on them as well. So, yeah,
Who's the detective now?
Jacob Day.
Okay.
Jacob Day. There's one of them, Frank Jennings is the second one. So they are actively being worked on.
Go have something, Larry.
Larry Albee, I live
from Simcoe, and I've been following the Hancock County Police Sheriff since we hired you all back in the early 2000s, I think it was. And I know back then it was decided by the select board that you had more of a presence and not enforcement. Is that changing at all?
I mean, are you asking me, do we not enforce?
I mean, enforce and investigate and summons and all that. You look in the paper of the Islander, and Tremont just has a little bit in there, and
If there's no policy as to saying, no, we're not gonna write summonses and that, I don't tell, deputies if they're going out and work the speed detail, don't come back until you have 25 speeding summonses. No, we don't do those kind of things. We rely on, who the victims are, what their input is, and, many times they'll say, I know who it is, I don't wanna do anything about it, those types of things. But if they want them summons, we'll summons them, and, many times we'll summons them anyways, depending on who the person is, depending on what their history is. Now, that may say mean, cruel, or whatever, but, I believe that people need to be held responsible for their actions, and if they're stealing property from someone, they should be charged.
but we're paying money again besides our county taxes
Correct.
for you to come down here.
That's right.
And do we get any more for that?
I guess what you get just that vehicle marked vehicle driving through town is something, if we had a marked vehicle and parked it somewhere in a spot where it was highly visible, and you could just sit and watch it. You watch how many times a car will be coming along and the nose, the front bumper will almost hit the ground, but people didn't brake. That's, I call that free patrol.
Yeah.
Tremont, I've said this before, is kind of on the end of the line. You don't get a lot of drive-through law
Right.
enforcement.
Yeah.
I live in Brooksville, and some of my other deputies live over around that area. I drive through several towns every night and every morning that I'm going to work, so they're seeing that vehicle around. So
Yeah.
a big part of what we encourage our deputies to do, get out and around, park in some of these spots where they're highly visible, and,
Yeah.
and do those kind of things.
But as far as investigating and summoning people and following through court and stuff, is there any way that we can get more of that with the money that we pay you?
Once it leaves our hands, it goes to the district attorney's office. We may feel that this crime that was committed, or we believe it's a crime was committed, was theft. Once it goes to, where the evidence is looked at, any statements that we have goes to the district attorney's office. They're the ones that ultimately decide on whether or not, yes, this is theft, yes, we need to charge them, and those types of things.
But if it goes to court, you have to go and testify, or the
Unless they pay it
sheriff.
out, yep. Oh,
And does that come out of our time that we
No.
pay?
No. We don't bill you for court time.
And so it's not taken away from the time that people are
Absolutely
down
not.
here?
Absolutely not. Okay.
I think we talked about this, I can't remember whether it was last year or the year before, but we'd had kind of, there was some concern about how many hours that they were in town. So we had upped it to 45 hours per week. But as Scotty said before, it's staffing, it's been hard to get someone here, 45 hours a week.
But we only pay for what they're here for.
Yes,
Right.
but we've allotted
You don't
them.
pay travel time.
Yeah.
You don't travel, you don't pay for the time it takes a deputy, whether that deputy lives in Ellsworth or whether that deputy lives in Bucksport. And you don't pay for their time to return. The hours that you get charged for a shift, 7.5 hours, Corey, or is it 7.5 hours?
Yep.
Those 7.5 hours are inside Tremont, and boy, I can't think of any time where we've had to call a deputy out. We do have it in the contract that there's an emergency or crisis, something that's life-threatening, we would pull them out, but then we would credit you that time or bring the deputy back after that. So
Yeah.
whatever you pay for, you get in town.
Okay, one more question. The money we pay, is that really all for labor or or does it go into equipment too?
Everything. It costs salary, workers' comp, FICA, retirement, the cost of a vehicle, all those kinds of things are built into an hourly rate. And that is the hourly rate. And please don't ask me what it is right now, because I don't know what it is, but on the top of my head.
So could one say or surmise that the money that we're paying to you guys for service down here is helping out the other part of the sheriff's office in general, because we're buying equipment for,
That, we do not assign one specific person down here. We have found in the past that if you assign one person to an area such as Tremont, and please understand, I'm not picking on Tremont, it's a very quiet area traditionally, and a lot of the people that I have wanna get out and do law enforcement work, and they don't, if you're in a quiet area, you don't get a chance to do a lot of that type of thing. So we rotate different deputies in depending on what the schedule is and those types of things, so you're paid for 45 hours a week, you know, the deputy's work schedule is 42 and a half hours, so you're getting a little more than, or you're getting charged for a little more than what one deputy really, if we hire them to work patrol, we can.
but could one say that the money that we're giving you is really helped your overall budget for the whole thing?
It doesn't affect my budget one thing, because it's money in and money out. The expenses that it costs us to have that deputy, we charge Tremont. It's, the other towns in Hancock County do not benefit in that sense, from what you're paying for. You get your 45 hours out of my staff, regardless of who the deputy is that's down there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the question was answered, but I mean, as far as the overall budget.
No, we don't, no, it doesn't affect my budget. If, let's say Tremont says we don't wanna do this anymore, I'd have to lay a deputy off. Because that deputy is not, they're an employee of the county, and they are a certified law enforcement officer, and they're sworn in and deputized by me, but they, you know, they were hired because Tremont wanted 45 hours down there, and we needed to have a person to fill it. I
Right.
couldn't take it out of my regular patrol staff and shortchange the rest of the county by sending them down here for 45 hours.
But what about the vehicle that we help fund? Would you sell that too?
No.
So you would get benefit from that because you bought it with a part of our money.
Theoretically, I guess.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking.
Mark and then Jessica. Yeah.
Oh, if somebody else, let somebody else.
Okay, Jessica.
Thanks, Mark. So I did hear you say that we upped it to 45 hours, but you said there were some staffing shortages like everywhere else. So about how much hours are we getting the coverage?
Jesse could probably answer that better than anyone.
The last invoice I looked at, looked like the average was 33 to 35 hours a week.
So you can do the math and tell you how many shifts that is. It's a 7.5-hour shift that they work at.
Okay, I'll have another. So with that staffing shortage, is there something that the town can do to start helping out? Can we do a town watch? Should we do a neighborhood watch? Just because you had mentioned, you know, if you see something, say something. But then there's also the other hand that what I'm hearing too is when we do say something, it's not always received in a way that we were hoping it would be received, and we are reaching out. So that also comes with getting facts and information. So maybe if there's some type of clear communication between possibly a town watch or a neighborhood watch and a representative from the Hancock County Sheriff's Office.
You know, neighborhood watches are great. The National Sheriff's Association has a national program where they have neighborhood watches, but what scares me about those is some people think, okay, I'm part of a neighborhood watch, now all of a sudden I'm a law enforcement officer, and they bite off something that they really shouldn't be biting into.
Yes.
And I'm getting hurt, those types of things, but, you know, we have, our Facebook page is private, you can send us messages through there, people can call up anonymously and say, I just saw this in Tremont, this was going on, and tell us, so, you know, we try to make it as easy as we possibly can, because, as I said earlier, I understand that sometimes people just don't wanna get involved.
And just to kind of follow up on that, being like people volunteering, wanting to be a part of it, but also having a personal vendetta or getting themselves into more than what they should chew, then that kind of makes me feel like then maybe it should be, there needs to be a board that is selected by our selectmen that have been vetted, and they make every appointment to every other board, so it could be something that the selectmen can kind of vet through it and make sure they're able to make that commitment, make sure that they're going to be a correct representative for Tremont to hold such a position.
I think before you dumped any more on the selectmen, I think that if there was interest enough to have a neighborhood watch, that you should have one of us come down
Yep.
And if there was a group of people, we could explain to you exactly how that process works and what it's all about. But yeah, the selectmen have tons and tons of things that they need to do, they have full-time jobs too. That stuff should be directed to us, we're your law enforcement, so send that information to us, and let us communicate with you and get you the information, and if it's something that there was a big enough group of people that wanted to, and when I say big, I don't expect to have 30 people, but if there was 5, 6, 8, 10 people that wanted to get together and say, okay, I live over in West Tremont, or I live over here, and I live over there, I'd like to kind of know what a neighborhood watch is all about. We'll come down and explain what it was all about. That's part of what we're supposed to be doing.
That's good information, thank you.
Yeah.
And if there was interest, Scott, just, would you wanna have that like in a setting like this, like a public,
Absolutely.
yeah, okay,
Sure.
just have it
Sit
at one of
down.
our meetings and then,
We can give you a basic
yep,
presentation
okay.
of what it's all about.
Yep.
I would encourage you to go on to the National Sheriff's Association's, webpage, and they have, there's the basic guidelines or the basic information of what, a neighborhood watch is all about. They're very popular, in larger communities, but, you know, we certainly would talk to you about it.
yeah, I've never thought of that, and I've heard people recently mention like a constable again, you know, like there used to be, but something
yeah.
that would be someone just local, more or less, just to filter out a lot of what's going on and to talk to people could reach out to as well, and something that, you know, not it wouldn't affect the overall hours like that you patrol, but it would be someone in addition to, so,
Call.
yeah.
Call. As for me, Corey is currently a patrol lieutenant supervisor, but first part of next month, he's gonna be my new chief deputy. Call and ask, I'm sure he's thrilled. Call, call Corey. Lieutenant Cody, we have 2 detectives, or just call dispatch and leave your name and number and say you'd like to have one of us get back in touch with you, and we will. Or send us an email. The county website has my email address on it. You can go under there and send me a message and go from there, and I'll see that, whatever information is passed on to the right people.
Jessica?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, so I have lived in a larger community and I've been, well, my family's been involved in Neighborhood Watch forever. Following up on that, I know you said to reach out to you, how does the town feel, or is there steps that, as residents, that we should take before we reach out to them saying, hey, this is something we wanna go ahead and do, I have enough interest, I know there's people that will do it, and we'll do a good job at it, like, cause I know there's been other times the town also has their own policies, they're like, well, first step is you speak to us. So what kind of steps would you prefer to move forward?
Well, I apologize if I cut you out of the loop, but I just thought that it would be,
Yeah.
you guys got enough to do,
Yeah.
that if it's law enforcement, call us directly. You know, unfortunately, a lot of times information gets lost in translation.
Yes.
If you tell me directly, then, you know, I'm
Fair.
slow sometimes, but I should be able to get it. But if you share that with someone else and they miss a piece of it or misunderstand it, that gets lost in translation. So it's better to go directly to the person, you know, or the people that should be dealing with this kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mostly just say that because there's been other things I've been involved with, and sometimes the town's like, well, no, there's ways you have to do it, and then I wind up wasting a whole bunch of my time. So if there could just be one conclusive, hey, this is how you move forward with this, that'd be a lot more helpful than not just listening to you, but then also listening to everybody else that it affects.
And I'll answer the inevitable question that will come, maybe not tonight, but somewhere down the road. No, there's no cost to you, and if we came down and discussed with a group of people about a neighborhood watch, we would not charge the town of Tremont to do that. That would be part of what we're supposed to be doing. You pay county taxes, you should be getting that. The money you're spending for patrol should be dedicated exactly to patrol.
Yeah, and I think just my personal thing would be, you know, reach out, get the information from Scott or from whoever.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you get a group of people who are interested in doing it, then, you know, contact Jesse and we'll set up a, you know, put it on an agenda and then have Scott or someone come back and explain the whole process and then, you know, if the town needs to do anything, that would be the time that we, I don't put our stamp of approval on it or however you wanna,
I
you
think
know.
the biggest thing is that you're aware of it, that
Yeah.
you
Yep.
support you support law enforcement, obviously you wouldn't have us here, and that you are responding to what your citizens are asking for. You know, you don't need to spend any money on it. There are, you know, you can get signs, you can put them up, this neighborhood is part of the neighborhood watch, or if you see this, down 911, those kind of things. You know, I'm not gonna get into that kind of thing. If the town wanted to do something like that, depending on how far this goes, then you can do that. But the key thing is having people, one person who's really the spokesman for the group, the one person who's a contact person, so that you can relay information back and forth. So, it's really a good project, and it really helps with community relations, that they get a better chance to know who the law enforcement people are, and the law enforcement people get to know who the citizens are.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'd echo what Jamie said too. I think go directly to the sheriff's department. They know a lot more about law enforcement than any of us do, and I'm sure they could direct you a lot better. I just see no issue with it.
And
I didn't hear you, what did you say?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I think talk directly to the sheriff. I think that's fine. I personally don't have any problems with you doing that. I don't see where there'd be any conflict or anything you need permission from us for.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Are you currently contracting with any other towns?
Yes.
Swans?
Swans Island,
What else?
Stonington, Tremont. We contract, for law enforcement at the airport. In
Oh,
s-
yeah,
In summer months, we have contracts with Sorrento, Brooklyn, who else? Castine.
Boy, you really expanded, right?
Well, a lot of those, Mark, we've had right along. Like Tremont, we've had for a long time, just the hours that it's been, but, you know, in Castine, Brooklyn, and Sorrento want specific things. Their population grows greatly in the summer, and they want traffic enforcement.
Mhm.
So that's what they do. We'll go down and we'll do a 4-hour block on a certain day, and another day, another 4-hour block, and those kind of things. But we have those kind of contracts.
Mhm.
But what I would encourage is, again, talk to your representative on the county commissioners. I put in for 2 more patrol deputies in my budget for next year, and I do my presentation to the commissioners tomorrow. Say, wait a minute, we shouldn't have to pay for as much extra patrol we get. Can we give them more people so that we can spread this out a little bit?
So how severe is the manpower shortage right now? How many
Right now,
positions
right now,
do you
I'm
need
full.
to fill?
Right now, I'm full. End of the month, I lose one because chief is retiring, so that will mean there will be by attrition. Corey's moving up from the patrol lieutenant spot, which opens that up, which means I open that to the patrol division. Who will do interviews to fill that position, which is gonna make another hole. So right now, and I have a town that wants a school resource officer, so I have to see if I can find something for that. So
Okay.
potentially the end of the month, I'll be potentially down 1 person. You know, we can live with 1 person, and that may be the inappropriate thing to say, but we can work our way around those kind of things. But when we lost Deputy Gross in September last year, from there forward, we had other openings, we were 5 people short. And trying to cover everything, is difficult, and that's part of the reason why we didn't get 45 hours down in Tremont. Our primary function is law enforcement countywide. Anything above and beyond that, whether it's a contract or it is, that's a bonus. So if I have to cut back, I have to cut back on the contract stuff before I cut back on what's going on all around, and I hope everybody understands
Okay.
that. Nothing is Tremont.
Now, Scott, I think it's important, I think a lot of people don't understand that this sheriff's department isn't the only agency that covers Tremont.
No.
The state police occasionally does, so let's say if you don't have the slot and you're not on the contract in this town, and I see something happening and I call 911 or whatever, it's gonna go to the state police and not you guys, correct?
Well, if the call, if you dial 911, it goes into Ellsworth, it goes into RCC. Now, where they go with it from there, Mark, depending on working down here, I will tell you, the state police have cut back drastically on their rural patrols. And I suspect somewhere down the road, may not be tomorrow, may not be next year, they're gonna cut back some more because, you know, they're shorthanded as well, and they're specializing in more and more things. So the colonel is retiring at the end of this month, so they'll be into administration. What their philosophy is may not be the same as the philosophy of current colonel, so you know, there's a lot of variables there.
Things are in flux.
They are, and every time they don't do some of the things, that we wish they would, we have to pick up that slack.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the crazy part of it is, by statute, the sheriffs do not have to have a law enforcement division.
Really?
Just
Correct.
pay 'em.
By statute, the only responsibility, for me as a sheriff is to serve civil process and maintain a jail. So you'll see statewide how many deputies there are. I would venture to guess that with all 16 counties, there are more deputy sheriffs working now than there are state troopers, because the demand for the law enforcement services is there. You know, I started in law enforcement part-time in 1984. And there were only 4 patrolmen, you know, and there was a sheriff to keep deputies, so there were 6. There's 26 of us now, from the down. So that shows you how much busier that we are now. And not only busy, so many cases take more time. You know, the burglaries that I was telling you about, the theft, you know, we spent over 40 hours of overtime, doing those investigations, doing the search warrant, recovering the property, and those kind of things, just in a week.
Mm. So
You see how budgets can get blown up in a hurry
Yeah.
with those kind of things.
Thanks.
Are you gonna have any luck hiring people? I know you're having trouble for a while. Just getting- Do you think you're gonna be successful hiring extra people if you get the funding?
I think so, and I say that in a sense because for a long time, our pay scale was not competitive.
Mhm.
You know, it's a race right now, but damn it, I think we have a great crew, we have a great environment, and we live in a pretty damn good place.
Yeah.
But one thing that does hurt, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, housing. You know, housing is expensive, it's crazy, and, you know, down here on the island, it's crazy, and not just here on the island, but, you know, when I listen to people at Jackson Lab, and I listen to other people, and they say, we can't afford housing for people, that's really one of the big drawbacks, but we've been very lucky. The last 3 or 4 years, we've hired some very young, deputies, and they're good, smart people, and they are, you know, they're from here, so most of them don't have aspirations to go, you know, to Aroostook County or whatever. They wanna stay here in Hancock County. I've got 2 more that I just hired that will have to go to the academy, next year at some point. And I had 2 that just graduated in May of this year, so we've gotten a lot younger, and it's easy for me and Corey, because younger is, you know, is a relative term and those kind of things, but it is. And, I feel fortunate with the crew that I have, that they're down good and they're dedicated.
That's good. All right, thank you for answering everybody's questions. And, yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Is there anything you guys have any more? You good?
There we go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, we'll move on to the next thing on regular business, which is the community building. We have had a brief discussion about the community building and the effects, or maybe the possibility of getting people's ideas of transferring that to the school. I know Kevin had mentioned it, so I guess we're putting it on the agenda to see if there was any input. And I see Jandria is she left there.
I think she just said that.
Okay, she made, okay, yep, yes,
This is an input, it's a question.
okay.
Okay, we've had this arrangement since the community building was built.
Mhm.
Why is there a desire now to change it? What's not working? What would be different? Question mark.
Question mark?
No, I realized I ended my sentence.
Oh, well, I just-
I thought I was gonna say something else, that's why I said it.
I think from what I've gathered from it, Mark, is that there's been some concern, you know, especially with like safety and stuff, making sure that everything is, where's the community building? Who replaces who replaced the door locks at the community building? Is it the school? Is it the town? Who has the surveillance? Is it the school or is it the town? there's a lot of back and forth, like there always has been. I asked my mother for a history lesson because I knew she'd been there said she went to work there in 1975. Not to date her, she probably doesn't want that on her. But she said the building had just been built then. It had, like a year or two before that. It was built on a HUD grant, so it was funded in the such that it was going to be kept as a community center. So that's the history that I get.
Doesn't the memorandum of understanding spell out who's supposed to do the maintenance and things like that?
I think to a certain degree. But
Some of it's pretty gray.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Well,
you get
that'd be fine-tuned.
Yes.
I mean, I'll say this right now, Mike, I love the school. Andrea, are you here?
No, but I mean.
Okay, well, anyway, I support the school totally, but I'm concerned about the loss of the community's use of the
Yes.
community building.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, that was one of the things we wanted to discuss, Mark.
Yeah.
You know, it, for all practical purposes, it's part of the school. I mean, they pay us to rent the space, but we also give them the budget that pays for it. So, I mean, you know, the money that, you know, it's even, the money doesn't matter. It's something that's used 99% of the time by the school. And it gets kind of fuzzy on who does what, who controls what. There have been some issues on a few things that have really taken a lot of discussion. It's like, it's for the school's use. If they do it, they have a little more flexibility in what they can do with the rooms and space instead of running it by us. They're running out of storage space. I know the band room is part of what's a community building. There's just been a lot of confusion, and it kind of handcuffs them on their ability to do some of this stuff. To me, it seems like it'd be a lot simpler just to have it be part of the school, and them, you know, and still make it available when it can for community use. I think it just simplifies things, makes it a lot cleaner in my mind.
Isn't there issues with the park owning that land and it has to be for school?
No, that's been resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That
it's-
was-
No, it
When it
hasn't,
was
no,
built,
it hasn't
it
totally
was-
been resolved.
Well, it's gotta be for public use.
No.
It doesn't have to be for school use. And
So
I
it-
think that's the building the school's on, not the community
Yeah, not the
building side
community
anyway.
building, that's two
Yeah.
different.
Not the community.
Community buildings
Right,
not
it's
on
the school
Yeah.
parkland.
that was
Yeah.
on the parkland. Is the school willing to take over the building but still allow the community to use
Well,
it?
that's, yeah.
I know. We
Jessica?
We, not that I'm Mrs. Strong, I'm
Well-
not as elegant as Mrs. Strong, so I know that. But we have discussions about how we can help monitor that space so it's still used for community. The other, I think, and this is me speaking mostly as a resident and not a school board member, not an elected official, this is purely Jessica. I think a lot of the concern comes from the lack of reinforcements. Like we have these rules that any Tremont resident can come out and they sign this paper, but there's nothing tying them to who's checking the space after they leave. Have they done everything on that checklist that they signed up the room for? And how are people getting the key? How are they not getting the key? That's still really confused because there has still been people that shown up for an event when it wasn't able to be an event. 'Cause there was
The key
school
goes through the
stuff
town
going.
office now, right?
Yeah, and I'm referring to that time now.
Yeah,
That
I
is
think we've
recent.
worked out the key issue.
Not quite.
No? Oh,
No.
okay.
But again, I think it really comes down to the reinforcements, and then when we do have those weekend celebrations, Monday morning, it's gotta be a school, and sometimes the fans aren't working because there's helium balloons up in there, and the floor is a mess because no one's followed through with cleaning it up. So there's that aspect as well as safety. I mean, not being able to have control of that space is really concerning for not only school officials, but for staff. Thank you for saving me.
I'll go Mark and then Jandria, we were just discussing
My
on.
question is, how would you have somebody control or follow up on, you say you come in on a Monday morning, somebody uses, a community member uses over the weekend, come on a Monday and there's a mess or something.
Right.
Okay, who's gonna make sure, if the school would take it over, who's there to make sure that that gets done?
Well, it's not getting done now, even when the town does
Well, I
it.
understand, but.
So it's still a
So
question.
what's
I
that?
have the same
Does it
question.
get done, it doesn't?
No, I
Either
still have
way.
the same question. There's no reinforcements, or follow through on anything, so, I mean, we haven't even gone to start discussion who is gonna have those responsibilities, because it's still in the works of like, oh, this is an option. And I think that's a question that was posed just recently by the select board.
Yeah, I think it was just it came up in discussion, Kevin had mentioned it, and so we figured we'd just get some input from people and just, you know, it's nothing that anyone's pushing for, it's just a general discussion on options, and it just, you know, I've been working with the school too on the, what do you call it, building committee, Jessica's on there too, or whatever, for the possibility of expansion committee, possibility of expanding the school, and it's like, how much can you use that building, you know, can we can never add on, you know, there's such a gray area, it's attached already to the school, but how much can they use of the space, and I just think it's it's hard, because I understand as a community that how it was purchased, and you wanna have it there to be used for a community building, so I definitely get that 100%. I don't necessarily think that having birthday parties and stuff in there is 100% the best thing, especially if everybody's understaffed, as far as cleaning up, but for actual sports activities, that's what it's there for, you know, that's my take on it. Jandria.
Yes.
Do you have anything from the school's point of view as far as whether they would like to see it one way or the other, or?
I think, I guess I would say, so I'm somebody who certainly takes time to I listen and then I have to process things, and it takes time for any of this stuff to really sink in and for me to come up with something super valuable to put out to everybody. But I see pros and cons to that. I think that it's important to work with the community. I appreciate the connection that we have and the relationship that we have with the community. I don't think that my goal would be, and I don't know for how long I'll be the administrator there either, but I don't think my goal would be if we were, what's that?
I said, uh-oh.
No, I'm not complaints, but, and someday I imagine, but, so, I mean, I don't think my goal would ever be, like you said, Jamie, we're not pressing for this, like, we just heard this was a conversation, and hey, would you wanna come to the select board meeting while we have this discussion, so that's why we're here, is to listen, and, because this is a conversation that could impact the school. So I'm not looking to I have plenty of responsibility, I don't necessarily need a lot more. I do feel like there are some situations that have come up where, there are gray areas, like there was some damage done to the floor just recently that until the floor is completely stripped or redone, we won't be able to repair that. And so, you know, I think that some sort of guidelines around how that space is used is helpful. The one thing I think that constantly weighs on my mind that probably wouldn't have weighed on our mind however many years ago is just a safety issue. Like, any individual can have that key and can open that door. And, you know, Jesse, you're not here afterwards to collect that key back, so they've got it all night long, or, I mean, and that's really the biggest thing that weighs on my mind, is just that, anybody who can be a Narrison, anyway, any individual who is a resident in Tremont.
Can you separate the rest of the school from the gym?
There is a set of doors that does lock.
You could possibly.
So yes, yeah.
They are locked, right, when the
Yeah.
school's closed, right?
They are locked in the evenings. I mean, there are cleaners that are there until 7 o'clock at night usually, and so in that case, those doors aren't necessarily locked as they're doing all of the cleaning, because they have to go into that space and be able to go in and out of there. And for the most part, once in a while, there's, typically it's after 6 o'clock that space can be rented out in case the school needs it for extracurricular activities. Sometimes there's people there before 6, which, I mean, those things aren't really a big deal. I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of that being part of the school, but I feel like, I don't know, I guess I kind of think that either way, it's helpful to just have some parameters or some guidelines around how that space is used, because we're all the folks that live here that end up having to fix things or repair things, if something goes wrong. And I think my biggest concern is just, and I wish I didn't even have to think this way, but is the fact that we've had some issues with people around that property that we would rather not. And I don't know what prevents
though, like, if I rent the gym and you find it damaged the next day, don't you come after the person, don't we come after the person that has allegedly damaged it
If we get notified of the damage, then we can follow up.
with the person that's
them.
taking the key?
Yeah, which we've received the most recent notification of damage.
Okay.
It's not entirely clear what damaged it. There was a thought that it was a hoverboard, but I'm not really sure.
Yep.
what
Yeah,
it
that's-
is.
It was damaged when it's community use and not school use.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and the camera recording at that, I don't know what happened, what's going on now, but, you could see that there was a one of the electronic that you stand on hoverboards, if you will consider.
And there are still cameras in the gym after school hours when it becomes the community building?
We don't have any cameras there, any cameras that are there are you guys, and I don't know that they are up and really working anymore.
Yeah. And that's a big thing for me, would be a start, before we should even be having this discussion, like, we need to figure out, there needs to be cameras there,
Security.
outside and inside the building. I would like to have it tied in with the school system, because that only makes sense, that's just naturally what I would think would happen anyway. However that happens, however we have to get to that point, I think that's like step one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we need to do that to get going.
The school committee just came back around to revisit the conversation with cameras, because we don't have cameras internally, like there's one that's an older camera that's at the entrance of the building. But there aren't any exterior cameras. We did just recently, I notified Jesse and let him know that there were some cameras that we just purchased to put on the exterior with some signs after things went missing from our shop. But that is a conversation that the school board came back around to too, when we reached out to Jesse and asked him if we can have some kind of conversation, but, so anyway, I think that's a conversation that this committee and the school committee are both having, because those types of things could be controversial, but we don't have currently security cameras throughout the interior or exterior, and I know just in talking with the sheriff's department, like they feel like that would be really helpful.
Is there a district-wide policy on cameras?
I would need to go back in and take a look at the policy, but I think there is something that's in there around cameras, and I think those things might have more recently been updated. I know like any school bus that you purchase right now, moving forward, any new school buses, you're required to have cameras on school buses. That's not even an option anymore to purchase them without them. And there have been some other situations that have come up over the last couple of years of just things that we found that have been left on the playground,
I'm just thinking of and I'll get to you just a sec, Jessica, I'm just thinking of immediate fix to, or not a fix, but I feel like that, there needs to be cameras there. If it's gonna take some period of time for the school to figure out whether it or what, I don't know how to word it, whether they would like to have cameras be there or not, would it be better for the town to maybe step in and, Jesse's like, oh, thanks, another project, but to put cameras on the community building, and then, that could, not an instant fix, but it could happen pretty quickly, yeah.
I think any of that could be helpful. I think that's the direction that the school board is leaning at this point, just with so many things that go on at schools or that have happened recently just at our school. I think that is the direction the school board is leaning, is like we really need to figure this out and be able to do something.
And I think the last thing that the school wants right now is to have it be publicly known that there's no cameras around the school.
Too late.
No,
Yeah.
that's what I was just thinking there. Yeah. Okay, Jessica. then
Yeah,
Mark.
and I was pretty vocal in the last school board meeting about this, we did talk to you guys at the select board meeting, or the town in May during our budget season about cameras, because one of my children had found a knife on the school ground, and that was not necessarily, a direction you guys wanted to go, or the town wanted to go to at that time, so it's really reassuring that you guys are now willing to revisit it. But I also did let Mrs. Shrew know that, like, she had a really tough day when that wood shop was broken into, and there was no way for us to follow through with it. And we were, but at that May meeting, we were really looking forward to preventative measures, and now we're just kind of now backtracking to a conversation that we had in depth, not only at school board level, but also here. We're now having to retrack that conversation, and I'm excited to finally hear that it's in favor of getting some cameras at the school.
Mark?
We're getting a bit away from the discussion of the community center, but definitely the school should have cameras all around. I agree with that totally.
Yes.
So key's no longer at God's, right? The key is at the town office. Okay, we got that. I understand Jandria's concerns about safety. That's a big issue. And I don't know, if the school's gonna take it over and still allow some community use, I don't see where those go away, except for the cameras.
I know,
Yeah.
that's.
And if you're gonna put cameras in,
Yeah.
why does the school need to take over and solve those problems? It's one of those things.
What's the downside of them doing it, Mark?
What's the downside?
What's the downside of the school having the building?
This,
What,
having cameras?
no, what's the downside of the school taking, the community building being part of the school? I don't see a downside to it.
My only concern is the community use of a building that's called the community center, and that was built for that. That's my only
I mean, I think
concern.
that's something
If
that
we're gonna
probably
give
could,
up that building,
I think that's probably something that could be agreed to. I would assume that wouldn't be that big an obstacle if we came to an agreement that the school would take
but
it
it
over.
doesn't solve for issues about safety and problems with damage to the building.
Well, whoever owns this, that's not gonna make the difference. It's how it's handled. It's how the space is administered, or how the people are screened or held accountable. I mean, I don't see his ownership of the building's gonna make that different. It's how it's handled.
Is it popular? Like, do people use it a lot?
It was
Yeah.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, right after we started allowing the use again in
Right.
spring, summer.
We get these
Um,
fairly regularly.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
way more popular than, you know, oh my gosh.
Pre-COVID, it was different.
Lots to
Okay.
use it. Over the summer it's gone down a bit, request wise.
Yeah, you can be outside, right?
Well, the town has other spaces that are available for community use too. And I mean,
And, well, that's what I meant about, I'll get to you.
Pacific
No,
Hall's,
I'm not even-
Pacific Hall's fairly good
But-
sized.
Yeah, you can't park there.
I've had my kids' birthday parties there before, and it's nice being able to use it, but on the other hand, I can see how very easily, if you don't really spend time cleaning up afterwards, it could be a mess for the school to have to clean up. I think that I know, Mark, you're thinking of like meetings and stuff, I 100% agree. I think that you should have, be able to have town meetings, big stuff that we won't handle in here, needs to be an option. Sports, any stuff, play, whatever that people wanna do in there. I just think that some uses maybe, if they were limited, would help alleviate the situation quite a bit. I think that, it could take just a few tweaks. I know it might not be the most popular thing for some people, but, I just think that, there are other places in town that you could use, and, it's too bad to have to restrict use, but also we don't want, damage being done to the floor. I mean, it costs a lot. I remember that wasn't that long ago, and, and having to redo stuff and such, I don't.
And we don't require a deposit, right? You just get the key and you.
Yeah. And something
Which is,
like
that's
that
hard too.
is hard to, I mean, yes, it's, I don't even know the circumstance, but say I went in there and there was a nick in the floor, that's a nick in the floor, but to get a company out now to do that work, I mean, hard telling how much it's gonna cost. It could be a ridiculous amount of money, so.
Is there a damage waiver somebody has to sign?
And that's stuff like that, Mark, that I think should, like a damage, there's a lot of things that we can do, but, Steph, you were next.
I'm totally against the idea, don't get me wrong here, Kevin, but
No, but I mean, you see me playing devil's advocate. I just wonder if you had some reasoning that I wasn't aware of. Yeah.
Spec.
I just want to point out that we are really lucky, especially a community of our size. Most communities our size do not have anything like that. Like, they just don't. There ain't the budget, there isn't any way for it to happen. I think if it means the school has to control it to continue, even if it's to a lesser degree, to continue to have that building as a community usable building, then that's what we have to do. We're lucky to have it, and, yeah.
And that's another thing that I hadn't thought of, but if you, the school could almost manage it, the property, and then, you know, that would be another, there's 100 ways to look at this, but that's another way to look at it. They could handle it, and the town would still own it, and, you know, it could be a trial thing. That's a, yes, Larry.
I think, I'm all for the community involvement, but you gotta remember how it started out. The buildings wasn't connected until the middle 2000s. It was separate, and, you know.
When I was in 8th grade, Larry, that's when it got connected.
Yeah, it was
Spec would know that too,
1997
yeah.
or 98,
I
right?
knew he was graduating.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, we used it. And then the cafeteria caught on fire, so we
And
had
that
to
was-
eat lunch on the lawn, so there.
That was built to be a community building.
Yeah,
And the school, it wasn't built for the school used it.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
So
don't, and
there
that's,
was a reason for that, the community had a reason for that back then. We don't wanna lose, I mean.
no, I agree with you. I just think that, you know, a lot of these things, as the school has taken over use of this, and more it's attached, it's physically attached, they're in the building, they're using it as a music room. I have no issue with this happening, but I'm just saying that, you know, they're using, the school, I mean, the community building in a way more than they ever have.
Right.
And
Where the
it's
town
just-
office used to be is where
Yes.
the music room is now,
Yeah.
right? I've been in there for a
Yeah.
long time.
Oh,
Yeah.
if it's helpful to like our PE classes happen in there, and so our PE teacher's office and storage space is in there. Our locker rooms are in there, our kitchen is in there.
Well, it was back before it was attached.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
and our music room is down there, our nurse's office is down there, and our mental health therapist office is down there. So it's I think the big picture, I think, to just keep in mind, part of why we're having this committee, to consider expansion is like, to your point, Larry, what that school was built for, is entirely, school is very different now.
Well, I know it was when we built the addition, now it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very different, very much different needs, and I think to your point, like, there is a need for the community to still have space,
Yeah.
and for us to also have areas of the school that function.
I think at the least it should be really known to the public that this might happen in case somebody has a problem with it.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, it goes to town vote.
Or it would have to.
Oh, yes, yeah, so.
And would the school purchase
Mark,
the
I'm gonna
building?
raise my hand, raise your hand, Mark.
Well, sit up here so I can see you.
No, I'm gonna fire you.
He just starts talking, that's all. Question mark.
No, I just.
No, I just.
Oh, no, you have a chair, go ahead, Mark.
No.
No, it's fine, wait.
Okay, then I will go.
Yeah.
So I guess my question, as not only as a resident, but also somebody on the school board, is if we were to move forward with this, what does it look like? Because like they said, how it started is, it was the town built it. We lease it from you guys for a certain amount of funds. Will it be a gift to the school? Are we gonna be buying you out of this side? Like, how do we see that happening?
Yeah.
If you buy us out, where's the money gonna come from? The town budget?
But still,
What's the difference?
Still, in our budget, in our school budget, we account for $5,000 a year to go to you guys for 5 years. So it's all kind of the same pot, the same pool of money, but what does that look like moving forward when that extra $5,000 a year isn't coming from the school, for the lease?
What happened when they took when the town, gave the town office to the school?
They did.
They do, that's the community
That's part of
building.
the community.
Oh, that is it?
It's part, it's all the same property, yeah.
So I think that would be my question, like, how does that affect not only the school's budget and then the town's budget? And granted, it's $5,000, but then what does it look like if you guys want us to buy it off the town?
You think the lease just confirmed change.
Hopefully for what it was appraised back in 1975, not.
Yeah,
Well, if it's sold, the money's gonna come from the town in the first place. It's a zero finance transaction, no matter how you do it. I mean,
So
it's,
that's, it sort of help us plan for our budget though, because we,
Yeah, and I would like to see too, I mean, this is very initial discussion. This is, so I know you guys might think that this is nothing that anybody's like trying to
No, just-
whip up quick. This is very initial. I had just given Jesse the dates roughly that I had gotten when I questioned my mother about years, and to go back and possibly look and see if the town had any contribution to that, because she couldn't remember clearly, but she, for some reason, had thought that it was 100% funded by a HUD grant. So said she didn't think there was very little contribution, if any, from the town. So if there, that's something that you can look back, and if there are anything from there, be like.
So far not, but.
So far, okay. 72 to 74-ish.
Yeah, I did find a survey from 73.
Yep.
The building is not on.
Yep.
It was prior to, it was in preparation for it.
I think mainly what we were looking for tonight is just to see if the school's interested in taking over the space, ownership of the space or whatever. And I think the details will, get worked out, but it's mainly, and again, I'm the one that suggested it. Just seems like there's a lot of confusion that comes up, with having people use it, maintenance issues that come up, security camera issues. I mean, some of the same stuff we're talking about tonight. It seems like a lot of that would be simplified if it was just part of the school and you dealt with it, and you dealt with who's using it recreationally and all that. It just makes sense. The school's part of the town too. I mean, the dividing line to me is really fuzzy in the first place. I mean, it's not like we're giving it to Southwest Harbor or Bar Harbor. It's another part of the town. And to me, if I was sitting in your chair, Jandria, it probably would make sense for me to have more say over what's going on with that building than having to go through us all the time. That's what my thought process was. And again, I'm interested to see if it's, something feasible or continue doing business as usual.
I think I'm happy to have the conversation about this. I think it's something that we're interested in, but I don't want people to feel like of course you are, like, you're the school, and I don't want anybody to feel like that's a selfish reason whatsoever. I feel like we use that a lot, and, again, I don't know who will be administrator 15 years from now, but I would hope a lot of our Tremont is not the only school where our gym gets used by the public, and most of our schools that happens where it's used by the community for various things. And so I can't imagine that you would find yourself in a situation, unless there's just significant continued safety concerns or something along those lines, that you would not continue to have that relationship. Certainly while I'm the administrator, as long as safety doesn't become more of a concern, I think that it totally makes sense. I really do value the relationship we have with our town, and I think that our school is nothing without our taxpayers and our community. So we enjoy being the heart of the community and would want to continue to maintain that relationship. I think that part of that is just that this is a partnership, and so in order for us to be able to share these things and share these spaces, we all have to kind of respect the fact that we need to help take care of them too. So I guess I'm entirely open to continuing the conversation. I think, like you said, Jamie, we're just here tonight because we were invited, and it's a very initial thought that has come up. So I don't feel like I'm in any position yet to have fully thought this through and really tell you anything more than I would be open to continued conversations.
Yeah. And one thing that I think we should get out of this is just, obviously there's an immediate need for a few things to happen. I think obviously the first thing is cameras. If you think the school is 6 months, a year away from putting cameras in,
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
this is part of what we also have our reserve for, when
Yeah.
things come up that are unexpected.
Mhm.
This is what we have a reserve for. So I don't think that, that is gonna be something that has to wait for next year. I think it's just, it's very helpful to be able to have this conversation and hear from some members and from this board that you're in support of us moving forward with that. We have another meeting coming up at the beginning of October, and, so I think that, you know, I don't think it's something that would have to take a while. I think I would need to go back to that point and just review. I know other schools have cameras on their exterior. I don't have any interest, I'm not looking to move forward with cameras internally unless I'm directed to do that for some other reason. But we have had enough issues with just things that have gone on our playground, or things that we found on our playground, or people that have been on or around the property that we've had to go out and ask to leave, that I do feel like it would make sense.
Okay, so I guess if we just left it, if you guys have your meeting, if you think it's gonna be an extended period before cameras do get installed, maybe
We'll reach
we
out.
revisit this, cause I don't know about anybody else, but I think that we could, you know, I don't think there would be an issue having them installed by the town on just the community building immediately. So that way there's no lag in time here. That's the only thing I fear, is that sometimes it seems like it takes longer and, you know, 6 or 9 months from now.
No, I will get some
What's that?
information on this and get back to you guys. Cause it would probably make sense to try to utilize similar systems, so that they can kind of talk to each other.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I think Jay had his hand up.
Okay, Jen, yeah,
I thought the cameras were in the gym already.
but they're not functioning, I believe, is what everybody said. They had issues with them.
Yeah.
I had a question for January. Do you think the locks or the security between the school and the school use and community building needs to be beefed up somehow? Or the adequate?
I mean, I think it depends, like our most recent situation, what happened was they broke in, they took things that were right there immediate that they could just carry out, and that was it. They just were looking to grab things quickly and get out of there. I think if somebody is looking to honestly get in, but the doors that are there are pretty solidly locked, and there's wire that runs through
Glass,
there,
yeah.
so it's not easy to, I don't think it's easy to get.
You're not concerned, in other words.
No, and there is also, technically, there's 2 sets of doors there. There's the gym doors that are like immediately connected to the gym, and then there's a second set of doors, and I guess I kind of wonder, like, we don't lock the first set of doors because there's still access to like where the water cooler is, or where the tables are, and where the vending machine is. The second set gets locked. I mean, but we also have student lockers that are right there that are not locked. So, I don't know, I guess if we wanted to beef something up, you could lock that first set and that second set. I don't know that that's a bad idea, except for there are tables there that, I don't know how easily could be, and there's a vending machine there for water.
What about outside doors, though? I mean, a lot of times one of the gym doors is open and there's a fan out there. And I mean, I know it's hot and miserable, I get it, but.
I think that's a little bit of a separate issue, and just that like there isn't ventilation in that gym, like there truly isn't. There's some fans that are up above, but there is no ventilation that easily runs through there. I think something about there was a wall that was built at one point, that blocked off some ventilation. And so, the thermostat reads 86 degrees sometimes, first thing in the morning, and so
Wow.
if you're bringing kids in to do PE classes, like, that's a dangerous temperature for kids to run around. And so, we don't want that front door open. We only open it, we try to open it first thing in the morning to air that out a little bit and get rid of some of the, but that's a conversation that we are having, is how do we solve that problem with ventilation in there, and, so that space is not ridiculously hot, because we should not have that door open at all.
All right. So, for now, do you want to do, any sort of, like a waiver or anything anybody has to sign when they rent the gym, like a damage waiver? Like if they had say I wanted to come, use the gym, and I used it 5 times this year, you would only have to sign once, agreeing to if you caused any damage, then you would be liable for it, but at least you would have to sign it, that one time acknowledging it. That's just an idea. Yeah, just.
I'm pretty sure that our school board chair has reached out to Jesse and had some communications about revamping that since the last instances. And I also know that on October 13th, we're still planning to revisit the MOU between the school and the town. And I think some of the stipulations with that revisiting on October 13th is to see a little bit more information and a little bit more specific information about, like, okay, if I do something I'm not supposed to be in the building, how do I make it okay? Who do I reach out to? Who's reinforcing it? And that's this conversation that the school board's gonna be having, and I think Jesse's gonna be able to actually make that meeting, and that's gonna be happening October 13th. So I think that is a bigger discussion that we can have on October 13th with the full school board representing them.
Okay.
They voted to move forward to sign the MOU, because it's the same document that we've signed for several years now, and so, they voted to move forward and sign that. There were some questions that remained, and so Jesse has been gracious enough to invite us to this meeting tonight, but also then to, come to that meeting on October 13th. And if anybody else would like, please feel free, because,
So we'll just touch base after that meeting then.
yeah.
Do you want to suggest, Jesse, maybe look at rewriting some of the community use policy?
Yeah, I
And
think
bring that to a future-
after we meet with the,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
with the
bring
school
that to
board
us.
13th,
Yeah,
and get feedback from them, what they're thinking.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
that'd be good.
Sounds good. Everybody good? That it? No more question mark? I like that. Sorry.
What a pun.
Yeah.
What a pun.
All right. Next, we have the truck bid. And Jesse, you could explain, but I cannot believe that there was 0 bidders. First time ever. 0 bidders.
Yeah.
So we received 0 bids back, when the bid package was sent out, and posted, it was sent to Darlings, Pratt, Rockland Ford, Whited Ford. So we didn't get any back by the deadline. It was pointed out to me after the deadline that there were 2, Dodge trucks at Darlington Hills were already equipped with the flatbed, which I know one of the concerns with buying one was that we'd have to buy the truck and remove the body and put the flatbed on it. So I did reach out to Darlings last week regarding the 2 sitting there. He sent over pricing, which initially was right around 56,000. The manager then heard that he was working with us on it and wanted to move the truck because it's one of the ones that's been sitting there the longest of their allotment. So he came back with the $6,000 discount off the sticker price to try and get it moved. We would need to add the lift gate to it after purchase, as well as getting the plow connected to it.
The 3/4 ton's gonna be okay instead of 1 ton.
Should be. And I know it's not a diesel, but I can attest for that. That's the engine that I have in my truck, and actually Dennis has one too. That's what his truck has in it, Audi. And I've got to say, knock on wood, that's the toughest, for plowing. I've had all kinds of troubles with diesels, and those do a great job, not an issue at all. Gas mileage is horrible with it, but it's, it's also $10,000 cheaper than a diesel, so has to be figured in there. But I can't believe that they knock that much money off. That's what I was.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, and nowadays it's like unheard of, so.
I'm fine with that.
And then I did put in the memo, we pay for this with the truck, reserve, which currently has just over 234,000 in it, which you'll need the majority of that for truck, one's replacement. However, we're not replacing that until next summer.
just take this right to Bangor Equipment or whatever it is now, and just have them put the lift gate and then the, Fisher plow gear on there. Yep. And, undercoating, I can't even remember, I think I mentioned that before when we were saying spec it. I don't, if you ever get a chance, I don't know who does it, but if you can
Yep.
get it done while it's there,
Yep.
it will, that's worth its weight in gold. Howdy, what do you think?
Whatever you guys want.
No,
Get the truck guy.
I'm not a ramp guy, so.
yeah, I know, it's just hard. I never was either, I was
No.
a strictly Ford person, but
And I
I- I converted, I've had it for 6 years, that's the longest I've ever owned a truck, and I have that engine. And I cannot believe how tough and how, like I said, I'm not, I can't say anything, it will break down on me on the ride home, but I don't think there's an issue.
I make a motion to purchase the 2022 Ram 2500 pickup with flatbed from Darlings at a cost of $50,670.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to purchase a 2022 Ram 2500 truck with flatbed from Darlings at a cost of $50,670. Is there any discussion? We can glue a Ford emblem on the front of it if it made you feel better, Howdy. All those in favor?
I'm gonna be different, I'm not gonna be in favor.
You're not, okay. All those opposed? That's how true of a Ford man he is right there. All right, next we have website mapping feature, sorry.
So this one, I'm just bringing you an update, when we last discussed updating the town website. Jamie had mentioned looking into an interactive tax map feature, like the City of Ellsworth has on their site. So I reached out to our tax mapper who does our tax maps to see if it was a service they provide. And they do not, but they recommend all their municipal clients use a company called AppGeo. So I reached out to them and attended a Zoom demonstration on it. They do, I think the closest place they do to us is Belfast. It's a pretty cool interactive feature. There's a lot of features, not only with the residents and the general public that visits our site for tax information, property information, utilize it, but the town office itself would actually utilize a bunch of the features as far as like a butters list and mailings, would be vastly quicker and streamlined from our current program that we use. So I do recommend that you consider doing it. The initial setup cost is $4,000, and then the yearly cost going forward is $3,000, and that includes a yearly data update. We've updated our tax parcel data. At this point, unless you feel differently, I would just encourage you to include it in next year's budget, since we don't have it budgeted for this year. We're already doing the website upgrade, which wasn't in the budget. And I think the website will probably be ready towards the end of this year, so I think if we did this in the next budget, that would be fine. And it does have some additional features we can look at in the future as well, as far as harbor data, and putting the mooring layouts for both harbors. They can then be clicked on and identified who's mooring and where. And it does come with a bunch of data sets that the state has that automatically go on, as far as flood zones and shore zones and different data on state sets.
Does the $4,000 setup fee cover the first year too?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I couldn't believe how inexpensive that is, because if you use it, it's unbelievable. Like you can see the septic like a copy of the septic design will
Really?
be
Oh.
on, and it's actually a picture of it too, so it's,
Cool.
you can click on all these, and also for like an assessor or for a code enforcement, I mean, I would think it would save a ton of time, yes, I won't
I
say
took a
question.
quick look at it, from the Town of Belfast website this afternoon, and I was extremely impressed. And speaking as a planning board member, being able to look at the wetlands like that is invaluable, because the state and the national website mapping things, they don't show a lot of what we have right now, application before us where there's a question about wetlands, okay? Well, none of the national or the state maps actually show those wetlands on. But from what I saw in the quick look I took at the Belfast thing, it would. It shows all these really small little wetland areas and delineates them, and different kinds, forested wetlands, scrub, whatever wetlands, and that sort of thing. So I urge you guys to get it.
Well, I know the system we got now is pretty clunky.
Yeah.
You gotta go to a lot of work to get much out of it. So I think it sounds like a great idea too. I haven't checked out Belfast, but I gotta do it now.
Yeah.
I will too, cause I know the
Yeah.
Ellsworth one is nice, but it sounds like it's even a step up from that.
I'll make a motion to instruct the town manager to include the app geo-mapping feature in the FY '24 budget.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to instruct the town manager to include the app geo mapping feature in the FY '24 budget. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, next is the general assistance ordinance appendices. Jesse,
So this is just your annual update, of the general assistance ordinance appendices from the state. Typically, what you've done in the past is to, adopt and sign the appendices pending a public hearing, in October.
It's the same,
Yeah,
same.
they've just updated the limits.
The limits, yeah. I'll make a motion to adopt and sign October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023, appendices A through G of the general assistance ordinance pending a public hearing.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to adopt and sign the October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023 appendices A through G of the general assistance ordinance pending a public hearing. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Great, now we have the town manager's report.
All right, in the last 2 weeks, I attended a meeting with the Southwest Iowa Tremont Chamber and the Hancock County Sheriff's Office regarding the Acadia Oktoberfest event that will be held over here at Archie's on the 7th and 8th, or 6th and 7th. Columbus Day weekend. I met with Kevin and members of the Center for Climate Integrity about some, what do I call it?
Possible legal action
Possible
recouping
legal
costs
action.
from fossil fuel
Yep,
companies.
regarding fossil fuels. They are also attending the League of Towns meeting next week. I attended a Zoom call with the town attorney regarding pending litigation, reviewed the monthly tax collection, prepared the financial reports, set up the TV in the meeting room for the comp plan meeting, attended an Efficiency Maine webinar on the funding opportunity that we'll be applying for the heat pumps. Worked on meeting prep, worked with the new website vendor, and worked on the workers' comp renewal. Office staff was busy with the BNV reports, voter reg updates, disposal of November 2nd, 2020 election materials per records retention requirements, coordinated maintenance on the vote tabulator machine, found an easement at the registry, and general election preparations for November. Public Works began sanding and painting the rims for Truck 2, checked roads, repaired Turner and Cape Road, did the mowing and trimming at the town office, painted the chute on Truck 2, did the trash removal, repaired the fence on Kelly Cemetery that was destroyed by a tree. Put the lights back in the truck two tailgate after painting was completed, sanded and painted more rims on truck two. Checked roads, back dragged the Cape Road again, pushed the two salt deliveries up in the salt shed, and more mowing. Harbor Master was busy cleaning up the dock with pallets and rope, assisted residents with moorings, inspected the floats and ramps at God's Island, picked up large boards floating in the bay, washed the Harbor Master boat, escorted a large sailing vessel into the harbor, assisted a broken down sailboat, prepared for and attended the harbor committee meeting, responded to a call regarding lost kayaks out of Duck Cove, met with a kayaker headed to Swan's Island for the day, dove to inspect the ferry terminal chains and cleaned up a fuel spill in the parking lot, replaced non-skid on the south ramp, inspected the Seal Cove Beaver Dam at Seal Cove Pond, called the owner regarding moored boat with the sail flapping in the wind in Seal Cove, and inspected inside the wharf house. Some fishermen thought they'd heard something in the wharf house, so wanted to make sure they were going to be in there. That includes the fear part. Over the next few weeks, I will be attending the League of Towns meeting on Swans Island, preparing for the upcoming audit at the beginning of October, and we'll start looking at FY '24 budget preparations.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. Suggestions for the next meeting? Date of the next meeting?
I'll make a motion to confirm the date of the next meeting for Monday, October 3rd, 2020 at 5 p.m. at the town office.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to confirm the date of the next meeting for Monday, October 3rd, 2022, 5 p.m. at the town office. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion to adjourn? All those in favor? We haven't had a long one in a while, so.
This definitely was one.
Yeah.